Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the April 1st session of the OBX Wave Report. Um, I will just say that this is an entirely serious wave report. There are no April Fool's jokes or anything like that as a result of this wave report. I apologize. At some point, I'll have to inject some humor, but right now everything is pretty serious. Sorry to say. I did want to start out our preamble today with the severe tornado outbreak that impacted parts of the central US yesterday, including Iowa, with a series of tornadoes ripping through a number of communities um, in the central US. And I want to talk about this to underscore how things have changed. We've we've got new science coming in showing that in a world that is warmed by climate change, the frequency and intensity of supercell thunderstorms that produce tornadoes is generally increased. And as I want to talk about this, I want to make, I don't know, 2 points. The first is one that is personal, and the second is one that is scientific. And the personal one is that I realize more and more as things get more dangerous in the climate system, I don't know, like to use like a surfing analogy, things are getting gnarly out there. And and the more fossil fuels you burn, the gnarlier it gets. And when things get gnarly, you've got to pay attention. You've got to be a little bit more alert to the conditions. You've got to keep your eyes open and watch for trends and watch for the energy in nature. The word gnarly in surfing means rough and freaky and possibly wreck your day kind of rough. Um, so with the fossil fuel burning, you've got gnarly injected into the climate system. And if, if you're a surfer and you're dealing with gnarly conditions and you've got, friends out there in the water, you or family members in the water, you've got to pay more attention. You've got to speak up more. You've got to be willing to kind of put your foot down sometimes and maybe set some boundaries or say, hey, that's really dangerous. I've been in, situations with friends and family where, you get that potential warning, and then, if you make a mistake and you don't communicate that warning, then friends and family, you know, could really get hurt. And so, with this new feature added to the climate system, with the climate system getting more gnarly, we need to take care of each other more. And those of us who are alert to climate need to speak up and and tell our friends and family when they see something coming that's more severe. And be clear, be crystal clear. And sometimes I've done a good job at this, and sometimes I look back and I think, wow, I should have been more clear. And I don't want to ever have the regret that I wasn't clear, and some like a friend or family member or friend had something terrible happen to them because I wasn't clear enough. So that's what I mean, when I talk about gnarly. Things are getting gnarly out there. We need to pull together more when things get gnarly. And so yeah, it was gnarly yesterday out there in the central US. And there was a lot of damage from tornadoes. Haven't heard much in the way of reports coming back from injury or loss of life yet. We'll have to see. Hopefully everyone stayed safe out there. But I will just ask you guys, please, 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 and particularly in this new world, pay attention to the weather. Pay attention to your local statements and your bulletins. And if there is a need to seek shelter, do it fast. But looks like hopefully everyone was safe out there yesterday, and you know, but things are getting gnarlier. And all right, so now let's talk about the science of things getting gnarly. One of the clear communications on climate science early on was issued by James Hansen, former head of NASA GISS, who was talking about how climate change loads the dice for extreme events. And here's a very simple and straightforward graph provided by Dr. Robert Rode, and a statement. This statement from, I believe, a couple years ago. June of 2021. Climate change is loading the dice. By adding a few degrees of warmth to the climate, historically improbable events are suddenly occurring with alarming frequency. And these events can be anything from a drought to a heat wave, um, to a severe rainfall event or a series of severe rainfall events, or a more powerful hurricane forming over much warmer than normal waters, or supercell thunderstorms producing tornadoes where they weren't produced before, or more powerful tornadoes than we would tend to expect. Um, Loading the climate dice is kind of like playing a really sick form of Russian roulette. If you're burning fossil fuels, you're adding more danger into the system, and it's just not a good thing. And I do want to tie this into the recent study about tornadoes. Um, the study, let's see if we can get a click through on this. In the American Meteorological Society, The Future of Supercells in the United States by Walker Ashley, Alex Haberly, and Vittorio Gensini, that has been widely referenced in the climate woke media. And being climate woke is a good thing because you don't want to have gnarly stuff heading at you when you've got your head in the sand. You want to be alert. You want to be woke. um, so yeah, but what the study has found is that the heating of the Earth system increases the frequency of and intensity of supercells that are responsible for most damaging hail deadly tornadoes. These types of events that can cause billions of dollars in losses and hundreds of casualties annually. And if you multiply them, of course, that factor gets more intense. All right, so this is our preamble for the OBX wave report today. A little serious on April 1st. I know I probably should be injecting some levity, but I don't really feel very levity-like today. Um, I want people to be safe. It's one of the reasons why I keep promoting clean energy. And I want to preserve the things that we love and care about, both the beautiful coastlines where we live here in the Outer Banks from the impacts of more intense storms like hurricanes and sea level rise, but also take care of my people. I don't want my people to have a bad life or a life in fear. Um, I want my people to have a good life. I want my you know my cats and my wife and my family to be comfortable and safe. I want my friends to be happy. I want my parents to enjoy their their older years and their retirement. I want us to look forward to a good future for for the younger people I know, for the next generation. Um, that's that's real. That's pivotal. That's a moral value for me. All right. So let's get into the weather and the waves. So right now we've got the storm system that produced these powerful tornadoes across the central U.S. sweeping on through the Appalachian and Ohio River Valley region. You can see the cold air sweeping in behind it in this wind map, and you can see the strong southwest winds coming in across the U.S. East Coast. Here on the Outer Banks, we've got gale force winds. The swell offshore is really kicking up. I've looked at the wave monitors, and it looks like the swell in the near offshore environments in the 9 to 10 foot range. That's not really translating to huge waves on the coast unless you're like in like a south facing beach region. But nonetheless, even on the east facing beaches, you're getting a wraparound swell in the range of 1 to 5 feet. So it's getting rougher out there. We've got those strong southwest winds. It's pretty cloudy. You can see the trees dancing in the winds, the clouds sweeping on by. Likely a relatively stormy day here in the Outer Banks. Showers, possible thunderstorms later today. Although for here, we don't have the heightened potential for severe weather. There is still some potential for it. And let's go ahead and look at the geocolor composite. That big swirl is that massive storm system that produced all those severe thunderstorms yesterday. And then you can see the higher cloud tops, the white cloud tops moving across the Appalachians right now, heading toward the Outer Banks, US East, and then the swirl of the low pressure system heading over the Great Lakes region. Looking at the enhanced cloud tops, it really pops. You can see the bright colors associated with the front and the low pressure system. Although just generally on the mesoscale level, we don't really see as powerful severe thunderstorms, although it does look like we might be seeing some across parts of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina toward the west. Just do want to show you the synoptic flow here with the telegraphing features. You've got convection and moisture connecting from the Pacific into the system. So a very broad system, and also you've got that Gulf moisture feeding into it. So still a lot of energy. Please pay attention out there, guys, today. Even though the severe weather potential has tamped down, this is still a very powerful system. And then we've got another storm system heading into the US West. All right, let's look at the National Weather Service radar with the alerts. I did want to show you the various alert statements. Looks like I don't know if we have any severe, yeah, it looks like we've got some severe thunderstorm warnings down near Montgomery, Alabama. Let's see, let's look at this alert down here. Two alerts, Elmore County, Alabama, special weather statements. So it doesn't look like severe thunderstorm warnings, but nonetheless, there is a powerful storm down there that's producing special weather statements. And yeah, mainly special weather statements looks like. So no, it is still relatively early in the day. Oh, and then we have high wind warnings behind the front. So right now, looks like the thunderstorm activity is tamped down. Let's hope that remains the case throughout the day, although there is some potential. And then, as I noted before, we have gale warnings up across the Outer Banks with those very strong southwest winds. Okay, let's get into the wave report for today at specific locations. We're going to start out at Jeanette's Pier right now. And at Jeanette's Pier, we've got 1 to 2 foot waves with primary swell coming in at 14 seconds. That's a small swell in the range of 0.7 feet. That out of the east. Secondary swell, 7 seconds, 4.5 foot out of the south-southeast. That is just like a diagonal to shore or perpendicular to shore. That swell is what's producing the larger waves as they wrap around. It's probably pretty inconsistent with the wrap around there and probably pretty choppy with those strong southwest winds. Nonetheless, waves hitting shore in the range of 1 to 2 foot. We've got really strong winds here in the near gale force range at 32 miles per hour out of the southwest as an offshore flow. Very strong winds though. Air temperatures in the range of about 61, 62 degrees. Ocean water temperatures cooler with that strong west wind that's blowing off the warmer waters from the Gulf Stream, allowing that Labrador current to slip on closer. Um, for the weather for today, we got a chance of rain and thunderstorms, strong wind, and a high of around 72 degrees. It is worth noting that I'm getting some wave monitor reports that up in Kill Devil Hills, we've got 2 to 4 foot waves. If that is the case, there might be actually some relatively decent waves up there in Kill Devil Hills. 2 to 4 foot with those strong southwest winds might be pretty hollow. Not, I haven't gotten any good direct observations, but looks like there might be an indicator of rather good surf there at Kill Devil Hills, so just worth noting. Okay, heading down to Rodanth or Rodanthe. We've got waves in the range of 2 to 3 feet with a primary swell coming in 7 seconds out of the south due south. 6 foot wave. I'm sorry, 6 foot swell wrapping around to produce those 2 to 3 foot waves. Not strong translation to the coast, but nonetheless probably pretty powerful 2 to 3 foot waves with that 6 foot swell just offshore. Secondary swell coming in at 14 seconds. That's 0.8 feet out of the east. Winds 35 miles per hour. Gale force, near gale force to gale force out of the southwest. That is a strong offshore flow. Air temperatures in the range of about lower to middle 60s right now. Ocean water temperatures 56 degrees, still holding in there at 56. And weather conditions, chance of storms, strong winds, gale force winds, high of 71. Excuse me. And then heading down to Buxton, we have once again the big wave spot for the east facing beaches, although it is worth noting that Billy Mitchell has a solid 5 foot break right now with those strong southerly winds. Buxton, so Billy Mitchell actually is the big wave spot. So a little correction there. Buxton at 4 to 5 feet with a primary swell coming in at 7 seconds. That is a 9 foot swell, not fully translating to shore as it's coming in from the south southwest, but it is wrapping around to produce those 4 to 5 foot waves. With his strong south southwest winds, you might have some nice barrels down there at Buxton. So hopefully somebody down there will give us some nice footage, but nonetheless, 4 to 5 foot waves at Buxton. Secondary swell, 14 seconds, 0.8 feet. That's really not much of note coming in out of the east northeast. Winds, 34 mile per hour gale force, near gale force sustained, gale force gusts. This is out of the southwest, which is an offshore flow. And then the air temperature at Buxton right now is 68 degrees. Ocean water temperature much cooler with those strong westerly winds blowing off the Gulf Stream. So we got 58-degree water temperatures with that Labrador current coming in to replace the Gulf Stream. It was much warmer there, about 5 degrees warmer yesterday. So those strong westerly winds really have an effect on water temperature here. And then for the weather, chance of storms, high winds, gale force winds, and a likely high today of 75 degrees. Chance of thunderstorms moving in later today. All right, let's get down to some climate features. I do want to note that there's a, a dipole temperature anomaly that is helping to fuel the severe weather for the United States. We've got much warmer than normal temperatures over the US Southeast and much cooler than normal temperatures just north and west of those warmer than normal temperatures. And that dividing line between hot and cold does also help to fuel those storms. It's worth noting that the global temperature anomaly is above normal in the range of 0.37 degrees Celsius above the 1981 to 2010 reference period mean, and haven't seen a day cooler than normal yet this year, and I don't think I will. If I do, um, it might be one, it might be two. The hot spots right now are, of course, the poles, the Antarctic at 1.1 degrees Celsius above normal, and the Arctic at 0.64 degrees Celsius above normal. And in the middle latitudes, hotspots are in Northwest Africa, a large part of Europe, North and West Asia, and in East Asia, running from looks like Thailand north and east all the way through to Kamchatka. So large regions of the world much warmer than normal. I did want to point out this warm air invasion over Greenland. That's an interesting feature. It looks like there's a lot of heat transitioning into eastern Greenland and Iceland from Europe. I might look at some of the temperature maps to see what's going on over there. All right, our predictive storminess for the coming week from NOAA's quantitative prediction forecast shows that we have a potential for severe storms near the Gulf Coast region and the U.S. Northwest coast, Pacific Northwest coast particularly, with some enhanced storminess offshore, so possible oceanic storms, and some generally enhanced storminess for the Dakotas, Minnesota, the Great Lakes region, and parts of the Ohio River Valley. Getting down to the Climate Prediction Center, I do want to show you some of the outlooks, and the 1 month outlook for temperatures shows warmer than normal conditions for the U.S. Southeast. So here in the Outer Banks, likely to get warmer than normal conditions with some spots of potential below normal conditions in the upper central tier of the United States and parts of the U.S. West, with also precipitation focusing in on the Great Lakes and Ohio River Valley region, um, potentials for more intense than normal precipitation, and then below normal precipitation starting to pop up for the U.S. West and Southwest. Tropical outlook shows potential for cyclonic formation for Northwest Australia. And as I've been noting, we're going to be looking more and more at the tropics as we get in towards summer, particularly at the tropical Atlantic. All right, looking at the Storm Prediction Center, we do have a potential for thunderstorms all running from the Gulf Coast near the Florida-Alabama border and then heading in an arc up the U.S. East Coast and then up into the U.S. Northeast. So not as much potential for severe weather as yesterday, but nonetheless some increased risk. So please pay attention to your severe weather outlooks and alerts if you are in this storm system. Hopefully it won't be anywhere near as bad as yesterday, and I really don't think it will, but please still pay attention. All right, now let's look at the global forecast system model, and I'm just going to show you where the storm is expected to go. It's expected to sweep on through today, and then by mid to late day on Sunday, it's expected to be offshore with a high pressure system building in. For the Outer Banks, I don't think we're going to get too much in the way of cooling tomorrow. It's still going to be warm and probably a pretty nice day as the front sweeps on out. And then we have another system developing over the south, not as intense, and then just kind of scattered showers as we get on into Tuesday for the U.S. East. And then for the central U.S., another big storm pulling itself together by Wednesday with possible severe weather over parts of the central U.S. again as we get into the middle of the week. This system looks just really big. Its intensity is also pretty strong. Nothing too major as far as like bomb cyclone stuff, but still looks like a very vast system that with broad and wide-reaching effects. And later in the week, potential for severe weather on the trailing edge of the front down into Texas and Louisiana as we get into Friday. All right, so let's look at the wave monitors. So I'm going to do my 5-day wave forecast for you guys. And right now, let's make sure we are at now. Yeah, right now, waves in the near offshore environment in the range of, looks according to this wave monitor, 8 to 9 feet. In the near offshore environment, that swell is oriented to the south with those gale force southwest winds. By tomorrow, these gale force southwest winds are expected to shift around to the north, and so we'll tend to have more northerly swell in the range of about 5 to 6 feet in the near offshore environment. And then as we get into Monday, the swell calms down a bit and orients more to the east, getting a swell in the range of about 2 to 3 feet in the near offshore as we get into Monday. And then by Tuesday, swell also in the range of 2 to 3 feet, oriented mainly toward the east. And then on Wednesday, we get some southerly winds again, this time orienting the swell out of southeast in the 3 to 4 foot range. Okay, So that concludes our wave forecast. I do want to show you some wave conditions elsewhere, and just looking at the Southern Ocean. One of the best surf spots in the world is Jeffreys Bay. And I did want to show you a swell indicator for Jeffreys Bay at this time. Jeffreys Bay has an extraordinarily long wave, about 1.2 kilometers, which really sounds fun. One day maybe I can surf this wave. But nonetheless, swells just offshore Jeffreys Bay in the range of about 8 feet, which looks really good. It looks like great waves down there at Jeffreys Bay. All right, so a spot indicator, and also I just did want to show you the swell here off of France, which is rather large in the range of 14 feet, and then off of Ireland, which is still seeing very large waves. It's been a really good wave winter for Europe. So, um, and these spot indicators continue to show fantastic wave conditions all the way from Portugal northward to Ireland. All right, so thank you for joining me for this session of the OBX Wave Report, where we talked about some loaded tornado ice, the waves for the Outer Banks, and a powerful storm system sweeping through the US East. And as I always do, I'd like to implore you to please do everything you can to help reduce the harm coming from the climate crisis by rapidly deploying clean energy by advocating and supporting the rapid deployment of clean energy. Clean energy being wind, water, solar, and electric vehicles. If we do that, we'll have a safer world, we'll have a better world, we'll have a more sustainable world, and we'll have a pathway to a really good future. If we don't do it, things just tend to keep getting more and more gnarly out there. So thank